welcome to the Cavalier Family Show. This episode will be of 1964. And as every beginning, we like to describe a little bit about us. Of course, we are an independent studio, and on this show, we'll be discussing live entertainment from the big screen movies down to our favorite independent films. Though we haven't really discussed any independent films, we're trying to work on that and get a little bit better on that because there are a whole bunch out there, specifically on Amazon Prime, and of course Netflix as well. So we are going to try and work on that a little bit more. And if there's any independent films you want us to watch, just go ahead and leave a comment below to let us know. But other than that, of course, we'll be discussing those movies as well as down to our favorite independent films, TV shows, cartoons, and video games. First off, though, we'd like to thank Kevin Holmes, who did the intro. We'd also like to thank our new Cavalier family member, Stephen Dawson, as he's our researcher. And as you all can see, we'd like to thank Mr. Justin Dye for not only joining us on today's episode, but also with the assistance in many musical elements. As far as updates go, it's just mainly the same. It's the shop where for every episode is a different year at random, and all the merchandise is actually pertaining to those shows. So this theme is kind of like a G.I. Joe base. So you go ahead and check it out there. I'm sure you like it. It's actually one of the many designs that I enjoyed creating. So it was a lot of fun, as well as Pink Panther vibe too. So if you like any of those, I would highly recommend checking it out. The link to that is in the description below, as it's just not shirts. It's also coffee mugs, sweaters, sweatpants, blankets, and so much more. And with that in mind, we'll go ahead and jumpstart to the show. Mr. Justin, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Very, very busy these days. I'm sure. Yeah, after the last show, we had the album release happen, which was really exciting. Starting vacation this week as well. Thanksgiving coming up, so starting vacation, which is great, and going to your neck of the woods. So hope to see you on down there. Heading to Orlando for about a week. And yeah, man. Other than that, starting working on an EP as well. Music never sleeps. I've got the creative mind flowing, so working on a 5-song EP now with some vocals this time around. So
nice.
A lot of plans coming up, keeping busy, and in the meantime, working, still working 50 hours a week at the daytime job. So
right, yeah, it's crazy. Unfortunately, a lot of you have probably noticed that Lee is kind of MIA right now. That's because it's just like what Justin said, that work has been crazy busy, especially during the holidays. He hasn't left us. He's still with us. He misses you guys, as I know that you miss him. So he will be back on the show. Obviously, with here at Cavalier Family, we want to make sure that your family's taken care of, your job becomes first priority, because this is mainly for fun. We try to make this popular and make sure that everybody knows about it, mainly because this is something that we want to do and end up getting paid for. But in that time process, we kind of have to have some cash flow. So he will be joining us again, once times allows, which is why, we have Justin here today. He actually has the moment, as well as recurring guest TJ will be on as well. And you never know, maybe one of these days we can get all three guys on, which would be fantastic as well. The other thing too is, as you guys could see, it's actually recorded. It's not live. We changed that feature. But besides that, I know I just went kind of in an update rant. Didn't mean to, but that sounds like you're doing amazing work there, especially with with the singing and stuff, which is going to be different than your other album. But hey, bring on the fun, right?
Yeah, I like keeping things interesting, man. It's not going to be like an absolute 180. People are going to hear the sounds and know it's me. But I mean, not a lot of people realize that I've been singing for many, many years. If I go out and karaoke all the time. That's not my singing, talents is karaoke by any means, but I before I started working on my electronic stuff, I did a lot of like singer-songwriter type stuff. So I kind of, when I made this album, I kind of missed that like singing aspect. And I have a lot going on in life right now personally. that I have a lot to say. So I felt like now is a good time to get it all out in song form. And yeah, and as you see behind me, this is going to be the album cover when it's all said and done. So
And that's the
got
beauty
that
of
done first.
and that's the beauty of music though, right? Is like you can literally put your thoughts in it and like just put out your heart as well. So that's another beauty to it. So with this, I do know that it's kind of a little late, but we discuss as far as movies go, because I know a lot of the people have already seen this. I unfortunately have yet to see it until today. I know you saw it before, and we kind of spoke about it a little bit, just so that way we could discuss it here. Is the Marvel movie Shang-Chi. I haven't seen the Internals. That is still on the to-do list, specifically because my boy Peter Parker will be out in December. And you know, that's definitely a hard hitting. Unfortunately, I missed Venom. I don't know if you saw Venom or Eternals, but I don't know if you saw those. But let's go ahead and talk. I want to talk some Shang-Chi. Like,
Let's,
like in go ahead.
I was just gonna say I have not seen Eternals either, or Venom. Eternals, I hate to say it, but it just, even before the bad reviews came in, it didn't really give me a lot of interest based on like the trailers and things like that. Now, keep in mind, like I love the story of like the Celestials and you know all that, but I don't know, man. Just the preview itself didn't really strike up any kind of like major excitement. It didn't seem like there was like a lot of action. It was a big ensemble cast, and I feel like it kind of has that Justice League problem where there's a large ensemble and you don't know half the people that are in it. That's what was wrong with Justice League. Was Avengers, you had invested so much time in these characters from their standalone movies, and you knew all about them and their backgrounds. For Justice League, you knew about maybe one or two of them, and then you're like, all right, who's this other dude, and who's this other person that didn't have like the time for you to really connect with them and care about what happens. So I feel like the same kind of thing with the Eternals. It's like there's this large group of superheroes, but we don't know anything about them. I know this movie serves that purpose to do that, but when you have a large cast like that, and you're doing a movie that is the intro to them, I feel like there's going to be a lot of slow moving parts because you're going to have to like get the background of the entire group of people that you're introducing. So I don't know. I feel like not even watching it, it should have been a Disney Plus series as opposed to a movie.
I mean, it probably would work better that way. I obviously haven't seen it either, but I could see exact point that you're coming at because, I mean, there's a huge difference between Joss Whedon's Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it's mainly because of that character development. You know, like everybody knows Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, like everybody knows of Aquaman, but I mean, they just know him by his look. The Flash, they know of the Flash. I feel a lot more people know of the Flash now because of the TV series on WB, but that still leaves out, you know, Aquaman. Yeah, Aquaman had his debut in the cartoons and stuff like that, Justice League and Amazing Friends and stuff, but I don't feel like that was enough to actually make people want it until, you know, this new iteration of Aquaman came to be because, I mean, who doesn't love them some Jason Momoa? I mean, him in Game of Thrones was great. Everything that he's done, he's good at. And then, of course, you have the other character, Cyborg, which, unless if you watch Teen Titans in the early 2000s, you don't really know much about. And I feel like Zack Snyder's was so much better because there was that character development, and the way that he described it was good because it was all around Cyborg. So you're able to get that character, knowing that character and enjoy that character's presence whenever they're on screen. And with the Internals, I can definitely see that. It makes me a little worrisome too, only because of the fact that, you know, it's one of those things where you are correct. It didn't seem like there was a lot of action. It seemed like there was a lot of baby steps to it. Now, Shang-Chi was similar to that to me, where I had really no interest. I feel like when it came to Black Widow, I had more interest in watching that movie than I did Shang-Chi. But I will say I enjoyed Shang-Chi a lot more than I did Black Widow. And that's nothing bagging on Black Widow. I just feel like Shang-Chi, number one, you know that they weren't going to die in the future. I mean, they may, you just don't know. Black Widow, when it came out, it was kind of a little too late. They should have released it between like the Civil War period instead of having to go back now. Now I do know like within the end credits, it kind of sets this series Hawkeye up, which okay, great. But if they would have kept it within that Civil War time period, then it just bring more mystery. Like, wait a second, she dies. When does she die? Like that whole type aspect. Shang-Chi to me also now it's been out, it's on Disney Plus, so spoiler but not spoiler because it's there. I watched it. But with the Mandarin and the crew with the Mandarin, you know that they're bad. They've always been bad guys from day one with Iron Man specifically. However, Captain Marvel, you knew the Kree were bad. If you read the comic books, you knew the Skrulls were bad, and the humans never got along with either of them. They were always in the battle, just like how the Kree and the Skrulls were always in battle. So it was literally a three-way triangle battle. Everybody was in battle with everyone else. And Captain Marvel, it kind of set up the Kree to be good guys. Like, okay, because I guess, they kind of captured her, so I get that. But then it showcases, okay, no, the Skrulls are bad guys now. And, now the humans are partnering with the Skrulls to take down the Kree. Where I didn't really enjoy that part because, especially with the comic books, how are you going to, I mean, they can still set up secret invasion, but the Skrulls are supposed to be like evil. Like, let's go ahead and take over every single empire. That type of aspect, that type of mentality. And when that happened, I was very disappointed. Now, I would have been okay if, the Kree was still partnering with the humans and Captain Marvel and still taking down the Skrulls. I would have been happy with that. I also would have been happy with Captain Marvel taking down both of them. I would have been happy. I just felt let down in a way with Captain Marvel because of that. Where Shang-Chi, yeah, you had the Mandarin, you knew he was evil. He tried to play that whole sympathy for the evil guy, which it played out. But at the same time, is during close to the end of the movie, now they found a common enemy to go ahead and team up, where it's no longer, hey, us fighting. Now we have this guy to handle. It was more like, we're enemies, but now we either team up and face this, or we all die type scenario. So it kind of brought more of a reasoning to the bondmanship, to me anyways, because they could still go their separate ways and still be villains, and that's fine. I guess that's what it is the fact that they could still go their separate ways and still be villains and be bad guy versus good guy again, where the Skrulls didn't really do that for me, where like when they left they could still be bad guys. Now they're just good guys, which changes the whole character arc. And they even had it in Far From Home, where at the end credits, Nick Fury, you find out, was not Nick Fury, who was kind of trying to get Peter Parker to team up with Mysterio. Is actually the Skrulls. So like that didn't really sell me, I guess. But besides that, I mean, the action was good and reminded me of like the old Chinese or the old Asian martial arts films, which is great. I saw a little nod to not Kung Fu Hustle, or was it Kung Fu Hustle? Yeah, I think it was Kung Fu Hustle a little bit. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. What did you think?
I was pleasantly surprised. Like you, I had absolutely no interest in it. Mainly just because Marvel movies that I tend to enjoy the most are the ones where I really know the characters and I kind of grew up with the characters.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've never heard of Shang-Chi before I heard the movie was coming out. So I didn't have much interest. I've also never been a huge like martial arts person when it comes to movies. I think one of the earliest martial arts movies I remember seeing that I really enjoyed as a kid, my brother and I actually used to act it out, was The Last Dragon. That movie was great. That's like my extent of like interest in martial arts. So I wasn't chomping at the bit to see it. But when it came out on Disney Plus, I was like, well, let me pop this on because it's on Disney Plus now, and I'll check it out. So I checked it out, and I was like, actually liked it. I liked it quite a bit, man. And there's certain things like every other Marvel movie or every movie in general that I didn't love. I thought they did the Mandarin justice, especially after Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that Marvel's sticking by their Ben Kingsley Iron Man 3 thing. There's
That's so funny.
Yeah, there's a recent article about it, and they stand by it, man. They stand by that decision, which, I mean, cool. More respect to them for standing by what they wanted to put out there. But they fixed it quite well with this, I think.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed, spoilers, if I enjoyed Ben Kingsley's return.
Oh, absolutely.
I thought that kind of made Iron Man 3's thing a little bit better, having him in this and kind of tying it all together. And I forgot the name of his little pet buddy that he had there, but he was my favorite part of like Milton or Morris or something like that.
Like when he was laying on the ground, like faking like he was dead, and the thing comes up, he goes, "No, I'm not dead. I'm just acting.
Yeah.
pretend that you're dead, so that way they won't kill." And then he just rolls over on his back.
So I mean, there are really amazing aspects of it. There are certain things like near the end of the movie when it peaked, where I was just thinking, I was looking at it in awe, and I'm just like, man, how far we've come with these Marvel movies, in a sense of like, most of them started out relatively grounded. There was some, I mean, nothing's 100% grounded with, superheroes, but most of the early ones were somewhat based in reality, where Shang-Chi, I think anything after Endgame, it was like cards off the table, man. Like we're going for broke. We can do whatever we want now, especially after Loki and introducing like all the new dimensions and the multiverse and all that. But I'm sitting there watching like a dragon come out of the water and battling another dragon that's eating people's souls, and all this other stuff. I'm like, man, like, not knocking it at all, because it was awesome. But I was just thinking, like, when you go back and think about Captain America, like the first Captain America movie, or even Winter Soldier, it's like, it was like just a spy espionage film, you know what I mean? Almost like a James Bond film with superheroes in it. And it was all based on like grounded reality. And now we've got flying dragons battling each other and these magical rings and stuff like that. So I thought it was cool, man. And I'm not a huge fan of Aquafina, but I thought she was funny in this. She was like borderline annoying in parts of the movie, but I don't think it ever got to a point where I was just like, oh man, I can't stand it. She was the funny comic relief without being overboard with it. And then like near the end of it, I grew to actually enjoy her character. So, but no, man, it was a pleasant surprise to me. It was really good. Not my top 5 Marvel movies, but I would say that I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, and can we all admit too, is that last sequence where they're being held by the dragon, the main good dragon is getting its soul taken out by the evil one. If his friend or Aquafina didn't shoot the arrow and land in its neck, it would have all gone to shit. Like if it wasn't for her, like everything would have gone to shit.
And you knew that moment was coming, though. Like it set it up so obviously. I mean, that's just a cliche movie structure. Like a plot point's going to come back. Like when she starts like, oh, I've never shot an arrow before, and and then you start seeing like that she's getting better and better at it. You're like, this is going to come back for something really important.
No, absolutely.
And of course it does. But it was a badass payoff, though.
So it would be fun to have you, Lee, and myself to actually have a Marvel conversation, because he's big into the X-Men series, and like with you believe that all the like for you anyways, like a lot of this mystical stuff started happening like after Endgame, where cards off the table. Me personally, I think it was Doctor Strange,
That's fair too. Yeah.
because of like the whole Inception look and everything like that. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, if you rewatch the movie now, the location where Wong and Abomination goes, if you look in the background, it looks like the same little cubicle location that they actually have Bruce, or Professor Hulk, and then his cousin who ends up being She-Hulk. It looks like that location, like that filming set.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like that. But curiosity though is when I'm trying to figure out where that beacon is signaling and who it's signaling to. Like at the very end for the end credits, like because they don't say anything, so it kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger, which I like and I enjoy. Also, the whole thing of Captain Marvel saying, "Oh, Bruce has my phone number. You can just get it to him. I have to go." And then she leaves, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't have her phone number. She always does this."
Yeah. I'm also going to have to be explained to as to why he's not Professor Hulk anymore.
Yeah, my wife was saying the same thing. Like, she was talking about how he's not Professor Hulk anymore. Like, what happened? He does look older too, versus an Endgame. So I don't know if it's that whole transition is just like aging him quicker, but there is no explanation to it because he could hold it. And even in She-Hulk, for like the trailers and stuff, like it shows him as Professor Hulk.
Right. Yeah.
So
I'm gonna have to start understanding either the timeline or the explanation as to why, if he can now just kind of like go in and out of Professor Hulk and what's going on with that. So it's just a little bit of an explanation. Hopefully in the future we'll get.
Yeah, one big rumor though is they're possibly going to do Maestro Hulk, which, if you don't know who Maestro Hulk is, which, do you know who it is or no? So Maestro Hulk is actually the set in the future, and Maestro Hulk is pretty much the Incredible Hulk, but without Bruce Banner. Like, he pretty much kills Bruce Banner, basically. Like, they get separated, and he basically rules the world. Like, he is a totalitarian territory. Totalitarian. Thank you. Yeah, that's he's like the ruler and stuff like that. Which he actually takes it away, and he kills Marvel's version of Hercules. So it's interesting. But he's also in the Avengers video game as well, which is quite interesting too. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways we can go with it. And bouncing off of that, how about the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer?
So the second one, in my opinion, far better, superior. Pun intended, superior Spider-Man. Is so much more superior than the first trailer. Like, it just solidifies some things and it proves other things wrong. Like the whole first trailer, when Doc Ock comes out and he's like, "Hello, Peter," and then everyone goes, "Oh, he's not talking to our Peter Parker, he's talking to Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker." And in this trailer, it shows them fighting and then him saying, "You're not Peter." So it solidifies that that portion is false, because he was talking to that Peter Parker. So the only thing though, and I will say this, because we've all seen the video of who is the lizard getting punched by or getting kicked by. If Andrew Garfield and if Tobey Maguire is not in this movie with Tom Holland, what if they do a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and they pull Miles Morales?
That would be cool too. That would be cool. I think it's now it's at a point now where I feel like if they weren't actually in it, Marvel would just come out and say it at this point, because expectations are way too high to have them in it now, and they know for a fact that if they didn't have them in it at this point, that there would be major backlash in writing. So I feel like they would have to say at this point, like, they are not in this damn movie, so get over it. All they're saying now is like, lower your expectations. Lower your expectations. They're not outright saying they're not in it. I would love to see Miles Morales in it as well. But I can guarantee you that Toby and Andrew Garfield's both in it. I think lower your expectations means they're probably cameo or at the end of the movie, kind of like the new Ghostbusters, where it's like they're back in it, but they're in it for a very short period of time.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to be. That's what I think lower your expectations means. And even Andrew Garfield, I read an article with him the other day where somebody asked him again, like, you're in the new Spider-Man though, right? And he's like, I'm not even gonna answer this anymore. Let's just move on. So he's like, he's past the point of saying, no, I'm not in it now. And there's been, I guess Jamie Foxx said something recently on Twitter that made people believe that, because he said something about like fighting Spider-Man and not Spider-Man, or it was something like, I'm fighting spiders with a plural. So people are like, okay. So yeah, I mean, I there's a lot going on with the articles right now. I'm reading about it. Like, people are saying like they're airbrushed out of the scenes in the trailer. And people are breaking it down, and like, they're like, okay, so what's Sandman going after? Or what's Lizard, what is he charging at? Because our Peter Parker's over here and he's charging down here. And so it's like and it's a very, very clear but if they're in it, they're doing a horrible job at covering it up.
Yeah, especially the Brazilian trailer where they, like, you could clearly see he gets hit by something.
Yeah, there's apparently an arm in the trailer too, a Spider-Man arm that's just floating there that clearly belongs to somebody else that wasn't finished being airbrushed out.
Yeah, no, people like to like nitpick at it, so I can completely. How much time does that take though? Like, okay, frame by frame by frame by frame.
Right.
But so here are my theories. Okay, besides Miles Morales, I mean, that was just because I know it's not going to happen, and if it does, where it's going to be fourth, and that would be absolutely amazing. But I only say that because they're talking about making a live action Miles Morales movie. So, that's in the cards, especially depending on how this one ends. But my theories are this: yes, Andrew and Toby. But the sixth member of the Sinister Six could be Vulture. Yes. It could be Scorpion. Yes. Because Vulture was one of the original, Sinister Six. And so was Scorpion, I believe, at one point. But I think Mysterio may be coming back, or at least I want Mysterio to come back, because that would just be like a kick in the nuts, right? Like, he framed Peter Parker. Peter Parker's running away. They believe that he killed him, and then yet here I am.
Yeah.
So I think that would be an awesome thing to have. Now, which is weird on if they did kill him off, because that's not really a Marvel Studios go-to anymore. Like Red Skull came back. Obviously, Loki has came back numerous of times. There's talk about Thanos coming back now with the Eternals. There is who else has came back? Has anybody in Iron Man? I don't think anybody in Iron Man. Captain America, yes. Thor, yes. Let's see. Spider-Man, of course, the others. Captain Marvel, yes. They didn't kill off Jude Law's character, or the Skrulls characters. Let's see, what other? Shang-Chi, father's dead, but the mom or the sister took over. Let's see. Incredible Hulk, Abomination is still alive. Let's see. Is there anyone else I'm missing? besides, of course, the Marvel TV shows,
Yeah, I mean all those too.
the Disney Plus. I honestly don't think I'm Ant-Man. Ghost is still alive.
Yeah.
They didn't kill her off. I mean,
Isn't what's the one guy's name in Captain America? Zemo? Is that his name?
yeah, Baron Zemo's still alive too. I forgot about him. And then of course, Yellow Jacket. I mean, that dude's dead, unless if he did end up going to the Phantom Realm. I mean, that is a possibility. I don't think you heard a splat or anything in that nature. You could have,
Right.
but I don't think you did.
Kang the Conqueror. Yeah.
Kang the Conqueror. Yes, there's multiple versions of him. So it's not like a MCU go-to to kill off major villains. So, and I mean, Mysterio is one of the more popular villains too. Like if I have to set it up, I would picture him being part of the Sinister Six than Sandman, even though Sandman is an original Sinister Six member. But
if that happens, my dream would be for the Mysterio that was rumored long ago with Sam Raimi's movies to come out, which was Bruce Campbell as Mysterio, which I would die to see, man. Like he would be a fantastic Mysterio.
Yeah, like because of that whole theater scene.
Yeah. I mean, he was like in I think all three Spider-Man. I would say Spider-Man for some reason. You ever seen that new Spider-Man movie? He was in all three of the Spider-Man movies with a little cameo. But there was rumors that he was going to be like full-fledged Mysterio in like one of the sequels that Sam Raimi was going to do.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be Mysterio and Vulture. That was supposed to be in the fourth one. Just like the continuation of Batman and Robin movie, the next movie was supposed to be Scarecrow and Harley Quinn, where Harley Quinn was supposed to be the Joker's daughter, which didn't make sense to me. I'm glad that they didn't do it. But yeah, no, if it wasn't because of Spider-Man 3 that tanked Sam Raimi's Spider-Man series, it would have been fun. It really would have been fun.
That was an unfortunate circumstance too, because apparently that was like mostly the studio's fault and not Raimi's fault. They were like pushing for him to get it out, and he wasn't ready for it to be released. And,
well, it was also
they wanted Venom in it, and he didn't want Venom in it.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Is the fact that they wanted Venom and he didn't want it. Like no, just Sandman and the new Goblin too, like Harry Osborn's Goblin, which is in the trailer for the new Spider-Man movie.
Yeah,
don't know if it is. What's his face?
I doubt it with all the stuff.
James Franco. Yeah.
Well, I mean, blacklisted.
Yeah, he has. But I mean, we'll see. I'm extremely excited. Wonder if they'll do. Do you think they'll do the reveal if they are in it on the third trailer and the final trailer, like they did with Civil War? Or do you think they'll leave it for the theater?
I think they will. Because I think they really want to capitalize as much as they possibly can to get butts and seats, and revealing that they are in it will get the butts and seats. I think if it would be a dumb move on their part for them to not show it right before the movie comes out, because I believe like a lot more people will go check out that movie if they know 100% for a fact that they're. I mean, technically, I think everybody knows 100% that they're all going to be in it. But just seeing that would hype the crap out of everybody right before the movie's released. And it would be the best business decision for them to do.
Oh, yeah.
I think they will.
I have a hankering that they may do it too. But hey, it's not us to choose whether or not if they do or if it's an actual thing. But if you think that they will, leave us a comment. Who do you think is actually in it? Do you think that they are in it? What are your, of course, thoughts, theories, fan favorites, I guess, that you may say? You go ahead and leave us a comment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because now we are only officially on YouTube. That's how you can watch the show, is only on YouTube right now. So go ahead and hit the follow, the like, leave us a comment. And with that, we're going to go ahead and transition to our Back in Time segment, which Justin, you ready to go back to 1964?
I remember that year well. Let's go.
Let's do it. 1964. Now, with this, of course, kind of want to do a shout out. A lot of people have been battling COVID throughout the whole year and a half now. I've knew some family members that had family members of their own actually pass away and stuff. So currently this year, 1964, it's actually a shout out to my dad. He's the one that actually requested this year. He's currently in the hospital right now, battling COVID with a mask. He's not on a ventilator, but he's on a mask air thing. Forgot the technical term. But he does have that going on. My grandfather's also in the hospital with COVID too. And then a family friend's husband recently passed away, was in the hospital for about 2 months for that. So just want to dedicate this video to not only my dad, but all those who are, of course, has family members or have had family members battle COVID in general. So this is one's for you guys. So first off, obviously, we want to start off and talk about the top 5 TV shows, cartoons. We're going to go into toys. And our researcher, Stephen, actually went ahead and provided us Billboard music. So that's something a little extra for everybody to go over. And we'll go ahead and talk about that. And then obviously, the top grossing movies as well. So Justin, since you're the co-host guest, I'll let you decide on if you would like to go first, sir.
Sure, may as well. Last time I think I'll let you go first, so I'll take the reins this time. So we're going to start with the top TV shows of 1964, and this is according to the Nielsen Media Research. So we've got Bonanza to top it off, Bewitched, Gomer Pyle, USMC. Gomer Pyle is something that the boomers love to say when somebody's doing something dumb or stupid. They're like, okay, Gomer Pyle. That's been something in my life with my parents all the time. Andy Griffith's Show, I think that's the one with the whistling at the beginning. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
And The Fugitive. And I when you sent me this list, I was wondering if that Harrison Ford movie is based on that TV show, or is that just something?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I didn't actually think about that. Nor did I think that he actually made a movie called Fugitive. So that's interesting. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, so you've never seen Fugitive?
No.
Harrison Ford? It came out in the 90s. It was a movie, if I remember correctly, somebody killed his wife, and it was a one-armed man. So do you remember that Jim Carrey movie? I can't remember what it was, but he was like, it wasn't me, it was the one-armed man. That's from...
Oh, Liar, Liar.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That's from, he's quoting Harrison Ford from Fugitive. Because in that movie, he's going after this one-armed guy that killed his wife, and cops are chasing after him thinking that he killed his wife. And he's going after this other person to prove that he was innocent. So I'm curious as to if the Fugitive show was... the same thing, or if it's just something totally different.
I mean, it could be. That's a good theory. Of course, did you watch anything like Gomer Pyle or Andy Griffith Show, or even
Bewitched and Andy Griffith Show? I used to watch when I was a kid because it was on Nick at Night. So, and if anybody wants to feel old nowadays, everything that's on Nick at Night now is stuff that I watched when I was not even a kid. We're talking teenage years,
no,
it's like Nick at Night stuff now.
Yeah. So all that and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, when a couple of years ago, it was Home Improvement and stuff that we used to watch in the 90s. But now it's stuff that probably in our 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, and I'm like, man, because when you think about it, it's okay, when I was a kid, I was watching the Andy Griffith Show, Bewitched, what was it, the Alfred Hitchcock Presents, all that stuff, all black and white stuff that my parents watched. And now it's oh man, now it's all stuff that I watched when I was in my late teens and early 20s. I feel old crap, man. But yeah, those two shows I watched. I've never seen Gomer File. I think I probably caught a little bit of Bonanza here and there, and The Fugitive. I just have no clue about, which makes me interested to check it out.
See, I watched Bewitched. That was the only one out of the other four that I've actually seen. Andy Griffith's show, like I know from like the title sequence and stuff like that, the famous whistling, and maybe a few clips, but it's kind of like the Dick Van Dyke Show, where I know of it. I've seen a couple of clips of it, but never really watched it. Bewitched. I mean, I grew up in a household of women. Basically, the only other male in my life was either my dad or my uncle. My grandfather was working practically all day, so whenever any TV show was being watched, it would be either my cousins or my sister, which, by the way, my cousins are all female. My male cousin was down here in Florida when we were growing up, when we were in Michigan, so there's that. My mom, my aunt, and my grandmother. So like I was the only dude. So, watch Bewitched and I enjoyed it. I mean, that's one of the many reasons why I feel like I really enjoyed WandaVision too, is because it kind of plays within that realm and then it went by decades as well. But no, I enjoyed Bewitched. From what I can remember by the Will Ferrell movie and Nicole Kidman movie, I enjoyed that as well. So no, like it was good. It was a good time. I feel like they could still do it. It wasn't like one of those TV shows like back in the day that they can't remake now. They can always remake Bewitched. I honestly, I mean, this might be a stretch, but they could possibly remake it as a TV show now. I mean, if they do it right, just like how they did WandaVision, I feel like they can do it.
Yeah. Do you know about the controversy with Bewitched when it came out?
There's controversy?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
My dad and I were actually just talking about this like last week. There was a huge controversy in Bewitched because she showed her midriff, and that was a big deal. That was the first time on television that a woman exposed her bare belly button on television, and that was very frowned upon back then. So craziness. Like around that same time too, I forgot what the other show was. There was another show about a married couple. It may have been I Love Lucy. I don't know. There was another show where two people slept in the same bedroom, not even in the same bed. They had separate beds but slept in the same bedroom, and there was a huge controversy about that too.
I think it might have been I Love Lucy.
Yeah. Like times are changing, man. Like you think about the stuff that's like allowed on TV now, and people don't even blink an eye. And back then, it's like belly button.
Could you imagine if you could jump in time and you provide like CSI or something like that to the people back then?
Time with your phone and just like show everybody everything.
Like, look at this. Like, oh my God, is this a horror movie? No, this is shown on TV. All it is NCIS. Here, you want to see something worse? Here's Dexter. There you go.
Yeah. You want to see something worse? Here's the news.
Oh. Yes, wholeheartedly. Oh, by the way, that's fake. That's not true. But hey, nobody research. It's fine.
Yeah, don't believe anything.
And with that, we'll go ahead and jump to the top 5 cartoons, which all the research was done on imdb.com. Now, these are all the premiere years. So the first one was Johnny Quest. Second one was Underguard. Geez, this is not underwear commercial or anything. Underdog. Number 3 was Magilla Gorilla. Number 4, Pink Panther. And number 5, Stingray. Okay, first off, never heard of Stingray. Watched a little bit of Underdog. Magilla Gorilla is whenever it debuted in Boomerang. I saw a little bit about that. Pink Panther, did watch the some cartoons, like the oldest cartoons, not really the older movies, more so the newer movies than anything else. But I mean, nobody can forget the da-dun, 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 da-dun. It's just classic, basically. But Johnny Quest, though, that was my jam. I watched Johnny Quest a lot when the movie came out. I ran it to basically the tape that's the actual film strip that's inside the tape broke.
Oh man.
So yeah, no, I watched that. I rewound that bad boy so many times. Like Johnny Quest was my jam.
Nice. Yeah, I watched Underdog quite a bit when I was a kid. Pink Panther as well. I remember Magilla Gorilla, but I don't remember any details from it. But I think it's funny. I don't know what it was about cartoons back then and the primate genre, but they seem to have like rhyming cartoons with a bunch of primates. We've got Magilla Gorilla, and we also had Grape Ape back then as well. Like it's weird to me that there's two cartoons about primates and they both have a title that rhymes. But Pink Panther, funny story about that. I used to love the cartoon as a kid, but then my dad was like, "Oh, there's a Pink Panther movie, just so you know." Watched it, and I'm like pissed off. I'm like, "Where's the Pink Panther?
Yeah.
What is this crap?" You know, as a kid, I'm like, it's a comedy, and you got the Pink Panther at the beginning, like during the credits, but it has nothing to do with the Pink Panther. Pink Panther is a freaking diamond.
Yep.
The diamond. It's not an actual Pink Panther, and that, like, as a kid, that broke my heart.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because Pink Panther was everywhere. I mean, it was even on insulation growing up. Like the pink insulation. I remember when my dad was building our house and Pink Panther was on there. Like, yeah, I 100% agree with you. It broke every kid's heart when they realized that there's no Pink Panther in the movie, and it was just a stupid diamond. I mean,
it's such a ripoff, man. Like, if you think about it, it's like naming a movie, you know, let's just say Spider-Man, for example, and all of a sudden it's a romantic comedy with no Spider-Man in it. And it's like, oh, well, Spider-Man is what the main character named his car.
yeah, exactly. Or like back in the day when the Japanese Spider-Man came out, it's like, this isn't Spider-Man, even though it's loved now by a lot of Spider-Man fans, me included, because I mean, we grew up with Power Rangers and stuff. But yeah, no, it was disappointing.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
All right, you want to kick off the toys?
All right, cool. So we've got, according to Reader's Digest, number one, and this is so obvious, but it makes perfect sense to me, is G.I. Joe. And we've got a little tidbit here. It says, in fact, in only 2 years, G.I. Joe became more than half of Hasbro's sales. Again, doesn't surprise me one bit. I watched that Netflix show, The Toys That Made Us.
Yep.
And they were talking about G.I. Joes, and like it's a very fascinating story because and I think you mentioned it later on in here, but like kids don't play with dolls.
Yep.
You know, but I had a lot of G.I. Joes when I was a kid. I had two things. I had Ninja Turtles and I had G.I. Joes. And that was it. And the cool thing about G.I. Joes that was different from every other toy was it had that elastic band in its waist.
Yeah.
And you can really like turn it and make it move like all these different ways that you couldn't do with other toys. But it's so cool. And I feel like now a lot of people realize that the G.I. Joe came out way back then. Because it blew up again in the 80s when we were kids, but you know, it goes way further back than that. Number two is The Greatest American Hero was introduced in 1964 by Hasbro. And it was an 11.5-inch male figure that wore uniforms representing the U.S. military and featured 21 moving parts. In just 1 year of sales, G.I. Joe made up of over 75% of Hasbro's sales. By the 1980s, the product had undergone a bit of a facelift, as we're talking about, turning the series of 3 3/4-inch figures modeled after the popular cartoon and comic book characters. So that makes sense. So another thing is, it says, what you can learn from G.I. Joe about selling. There's challenging times when G.I. Joe was first introduced in the 60s. It was unheard of that boys would play with dolls. However, these tough guys broke the mold of sales. So yeah, man, you know, it's the thing with boys, and I don't think boys change, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, you name it. It's like, I'm not playing with a doll. I'm not playing with a doll. It's a girl's toy. But you market it correctly, man. And that's the thing, like marketing people are geniuses. If you've got a good marketer, man, you can make millions of dollars. And
Oh,
they
absolutely.
marketed that GI Joe correctly and absolutely perfectly. We've got number 2 is Skipper, which is Barbie's sister, and it actually outsold Barbie. I have never heard of Skipper.
Really? I have.
Yeah.
So freaking Barbie making it on the list again, or Barbie's sister.
Always, man. Yeah.
It's always. So yeah, I remember Skipper. When I first knew of her was she was a lifeguard, from what I can remember. Though Barbie at one point was a lifeguard as well, from what I remember. But I believe because Barbie's blonde, right?
Mhm.
And then I believe Skipper is brunette, I think is what it was. But yeah, like growing up with basically all female, well, one sister and the 2 female cousins, it was a lot of dolls, which is why, when I was younger, I had a GI Joe as well. I still actually have one of the Marine Corps GI Joes that they came out with as well. That's still in its box. The box is trashed, unfortunately, but it was never opened.
Nice. Oh yeah. Okay. So we've got lost my place here. We've got okay, here we go. We've got skateboards were growing in popularity. They'd reach an estimated 100 million in business by 1965. Imagine that price, $100 million in 1965, and how
Yeah.
much that would translate to today.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like those sales are probably better than skateboards now
Oh,
at this
absolutely.
point. I remember early 90s, early to late 90s skateboards were like really pretty popular. When I was a teenager, everyone was skateboarding, like all the Jackass like CKY videos were out, and skateboarding was a huge thing. But yeah, $100 million back then. I kind of want to go and take a look at what skateboards looked like back then. I can't imagine them being what they look like now. They're probably like big, bulky wooden planks.
Yeah.
Not a lot of tricks. I think people were probably just using them for transportation more so than like doing. Can you imagine somebody in the '60s doing like a half pipe?
Or a kickflip. Did you ever own a skateboard?
Yeah, quite a few when I was a kid, and I remember telling you this story last show about how my dad built me a ramp for my bike, and then I flipped off of it and used it once and started crying and never used it again. Same story though with the skateboard.
Okay.
That was me as a kid, man. All it took was me getting hurt one time, and I'd throw it and be like, "Screw this! I'm not doing it anymore."
Did you like own a specific brand, or was it one of the like Walmart ones?
Yeah, it was a specific brand, and I grew up in Virginia Beach, and
Okay.
it was a big surf town, clearly. But there was a surf shop called the 17th Street Surf Shop in Virginia, which was huge locally owned surf shop. And they sold skateboards. So I always had the 17th Street Surf Shop board, which had, if I remember correctly, it was a green alien on the bottom of it. And
Why does that sound familiar? That brand.
Yeah, there's a brand with a green alien.
I'm looking it up right now.
But I had one of those boards. And then I had Spitfire wheels. I remember that.
Yes. Yep. Alien Workshop.
Yeah, there you go. Alien Workshop. So I had an Alien Workshop board with Spitfire wheels and trucks. And I got decent. I went to a couple of the skating parks and could do a couple of things, but I never ever tried the half pipe. It scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. So didn't do that and didn't go that far. But I could do a nice little kickflip and ollie and stuff like that. But that's about as far as I got, man.
I could never do a kickflip. Like the first skateboard I owned was, I believe it was like Walmart brand. It had the Looney Tunes on the bottom of it, and instead of like 2 tails, it only had 1 tail. So
that's the ones that are like a bit wider, like than a normal skateboard. They was kind of like fat and then had like the tail on the back.
possibly. but I don't really remember a lot of it. And this is the reason why. When I was younger and our house was being built up in Michigan, there's obviously basement cement, and I was skateboarding down there and I lost balance and the board flipped from underneath me. And I did like a 360 or 180 and I nailed my head onto the concrete, like bam, to the point where my parents should have taken me to the hospital. I know my mom was crying on the phone talking to 911 because of the lump I had. But now, like, I actually have, like, if you put like your finger across my forehead, you can feel like cracks or like broken, like right here. So
Simba. I could see when you're doing that. No, that's awful, man.
But after that, when I was in college, and I mean throughout junior high and stuff, like I wanted another skateboard. It never stopped me. Like the skateboard I've always wanted and still want to this day is the blind skateboard, which from my understanding, they're not really good skateboards, but I just love that Grim Reaper on there, like that toy looking, that cartoonish looking Grim Reaper. Like I've always wanted that one. But in college, I ended up having an Element board with Element wheels and trucks and stuff, mainly because the middle part of it had that little some type of fiber in the middle where you could never, it would be hard to break your board. And I tried because I was pissed and I kept on like stepping on it and nothing.
Let's see. After that, we've got Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I remember getting that for Christmas one year.
Oh, really? I never actually owned it.
Yeah. There was a movie that came out with Hugh Jackman about Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I forgot what it's called now. Yeah.
Are you thinking of Real Steel?
Yeah, Real Steel. Real Steel. It took its idea from Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that
outright about Rock'em Sock'em Robots, but it took like the idea of like the robots fighting from Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Okay, well that's unique.
A toy that got really old really quick. It's not like it's just there's not much you can do with the robots other than just punch the head and move them ever so slightly, and that was it. And I mean, I got tired of it real quick.
Making your siblings upset, just like Hungry Hippos, where like you tilt it to where you get all the marbles and you're like,
yeah. Last but not least, Mousetrap.
I had Mousetrap.
It's a great game. Great game. It was just as fun setting it up as it was like playing the actual game. It was an awesome game. I didn't know the game was that old, honestly. I thought, again, as a kid, I thought that was like an 80s game. But that's interesting to me that it's that old. I feel like in the 60s, maybe the game of Mousetrap was just an actual mousetrap. It's like, I feel like that's something that like a dad would say to his son back in the 60s. You want to play a game of Mousetrap? Here's a mousetrap. Put some cheese on it and let's get this damn mouse. But no, I mean, that's interesting to me that there was a board game of Mousetrap.
I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I wonder if it's the same kind of setup as it was, from when we were kids.
Well, that's funny because I was actually going to say, like, back in those days, safety wasn't a big thing. Look at lawn darts, right? With the big metal rods that like injured a lot of kids. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, okay, go to like Walmart or your pharmacy location, buy an actual mousetrap, and then use your finger for the board.
Would not surprise me one bit.
Right, exactly.
And that's it. That wraps it up for the top toys.
Sweet.
Looks like you got the honors of the Billboard music.
Billboard music, number uno is I Wanna Hold Your Hand, sang Better by the Beatles. Of course, that hit number one. It was number 48 on Billboard's all time from 1958 to 2018, apparently. I did not know that. That's awesome. Of course, it was the number one hit, entering the Billboard Top 100 charts on January 18th, January 1964. Let's see here. What other cool fun facts it has? I mean, Beatles British Invasion. Let's see. It was replaced at one point by She Loves You. Of course, like I said, it remained there until 2018. And second highest selling single of the 1960s behind She Loves You, which was found on Wikipedia. Which ironically, number 2 is She Loves You by the Beatles. So they outbeat their own thing. Number 3 is Hello Dolly by Louis Armstrong. Number 4 is Oh Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison, if I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. And number 5 is I Get Around by the Beach Boys. The first year that the UK charts top 10 were from Britain. Makes sense. Of course, British Invasion. Walter Cronkite said the British Invasion this time goes by the code name Beatlemania. Of course, that was in quotation, so that's what he said specifically. And then it looks like they appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show on February 9th. Nielsen ratings estimated that 45% of the US television viewers that night saw their appearance, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, like it looks like it was all about British Invasion. I don't know much about the Beach Boys other than their songs, of course, and that Jackie Chan loves the Beach Boys in Rush Hour. But one interesting fact is that one of the Beach Boys actually got Charles Manson to sign and create one of his own musical arts or one of his recorded songs. So that was interesting, but also weird at the same time. But yeah, like the Beatles, had strong Louis Armstrong, big and strong, like all those people on the top charts of the top 5 is like strong in my mind. As far as 1989, there is solid single movies out there, right? Like Batman, Beetlejuice, like all those. 1964 sounds like it was big in with music because of the Beatles, Armstrong, Beach Boys, all those guys.
Yeah, it's a great year for music.
Mm-hmm.
You, as they always say, you're either Beatles or the Stones. What are you?
I would see. I would go with Beatles. I just know more of the Beatles. Plus, I've watched Across the Universe. Absolutely loved that movie. One of my favorite musicals. Great. Absolutely. And you kind of have to, with that movie too, that I found out is you kind of have to partake in a different way to watch it. Because there's a sequence in there that I didn't understand. It was the whole, painting or where he goes to get his clothes and it says, passing through. But the way that you have to partake in it, when I watched it, I understand more of it because, he's passing through to grab his stuff, but it's also the photo of him trying to I guess it was the drawing of him trying to grab each other or them holding each other and they just pass through one another. So it's like, it means more, I guess. You can catch on to other things a lot more. Plus the actor was, I liked him in the number 2021 as well. Yeah. So it was good. But the Beatles, they have a lot of iconic songs. I know Rolling Stones does. Rolling Stones' logo with the tongue is iconic. Like you can see that anywhere and know exactly who it is. Mick Jagger, know exactly who he is, where he comes from, the songs that he's sang. Maroon 5 did moves like Mick Jagger. Right. You can't do moves like Beatles. You can go of, band splitting like Beatles, but you'd have to do that at the Polynesian resort because, that's where it was so-called happened, the split. But was it the Polynesian or?
Moves like McCartney doesn't really have the same ring to it.
Yeah. Was it the Polynesian or was it the Contemporary?
It was Polynesian.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. I thought I remembered it being Polynesian, but I could have been wrong because I do know, because if I'm not mistaken, Richard Nixon's famous speech of "I am not a crook" happened at the Contemporary.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until a little bit of research. Yeah, weird, right?
There you go. No, it's a great year for music, man. I'm a bit jealous. I mean, that's a whole lot of rock and roll. That's just no possible way to recreate that great music back then. I will say though, interesting thing. I got in a conversation about with another musician about should musicians release singles or albums these days, because albums are dead. And I took offense to that because clearly I just released an entire album. I'm old school. I want to tell a complete story. So from my creative standpoint, albums. However, I also understand that music comes in waves. So if you look at the 60s, right? The 60s, it's the same thing, but like as it is today, where singles are huge. Singles are the way to go. People are releasing singles here and there. And they'll release albums, but singles are really where the sales are coming from. It's the same thing that's happening right now with music. Again, it's singles that are hitting, or EPs, or just people have shorter attention spans now, so they want like everything in their small little doses right then and right there, instant gratification.
Right.
But it's interesting to me to see these in the 60s, these popular songs, knowing that they were singles that were very popular, where now it's the same thing that's happening over again. So music is cyclical like that, where again, I'm hoping anyway that we'll go back to the album era. But for right now, we seem to be mirroring 1964 and the late 60s with that popularity in singles.
Yeah, like I guess the biggest one for me between the two is the whole thing about Dr. Dre's Detox album, because you have the song Kush, you have the I Need a Doctor Now, which is I Need a Doctor, and then he did that song with Jay-Z, and I remember going into FYE, and you can't tell me this isn't true, and I'm not saying you, but like everyone out there cannot tell me that this isn't true, because it would happen. It was there. When I went to FYE, if you look up Detox, you'll see that green silhouette of Dr. Dre with the city in the background and that kind of stuff. And that cover was on a CD in FYE. And there wasn't just one, but there were multiple of them. And it was priced at like $30 some per. And there was like, I don't know, like 20 some songs on there. And all those songs were actually on there. I Need a Doctor, Kush, the song with Jay-Z, like all those songs were on there plus more. And then went back like 2-3 months later and it was gone. And then, that's when they said that, Detox isn't going to be released, blah, blah, blah. But, I downloaded all those songs prior too. So it's like, but I have these songs. That's great, but I want that album back. I know it was an album because I saw it. I saw the back of it. I saw everything. Like people could say, oh, somebody who created it, blah, blah, blah. No, it was an actual album. And I would much rather have, the actual album with all those songs, like how you were saying, versus the singles. Now, the singles, like for an example, Eminem's Kill Shot, versus that was him going against MGK when their feud was going on. That I can see being a single because it doesn't fit with anything else. Even with Eminem's single The Warning, where it's the shot against Mariah Carey because she did Obsession, which was a shot at him. That I can honestly see going on an album. It would fit with his criteria specifically. But I would much rather have full-blown albums than just singles all the time, just because.
And like I'll say what I said to my friend who was like, he said to me, he said, you have to adjust and get with the times or die. And I'm like, that may be true. It may be true, but I also don't. I'm very big on artist integrity. Like, this is what I want to do, and you can come along for the ride with me, or you don't. And, like, it is what it is. I don't make music to make money, and I don't make music to have millions of followers. I make music because it's what I like to do, and if anybody else enjoys it along the way, that's a bonus. So this is what I like to do. I'm telling a story. And so what I said to my friend was, if I'm sitting here telling a story and I want it to be a complete story from front to back, have you ever known an author to release a chapter and then a chapter and then a chapter, or do they release a full book? They might release a couple of chapters before the book comes out as a teaser, but you read a book, you don't read a chapter and then another chapter and then another chapter and buy it separately. You don't buy a movie and watch the first 20 minutes and then buy another 20 minutes after that, so why is music any different than that? So that's me, is like, artistically, I want an entire package. Even as a listener, I want an entire package, because that's what I loved growing up, was going to the music store after I got off work and getting a new CD and flipping through the booklet and reading the lyrics and looking at the artwork and just going through and experiencing that world and story. So singles can't do that. But as you said, singles do have their place. Singles are great for hype for an album coming out, a bigger album. It's great for like a B-side of something that may not fit into a bigger picture for an album, or maybe just to diss somebody. But singles have their place, but I'm yearning for the time where the album makes a comeback again. And I'm hoping that's not too far off.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'll be keeping the torch lit for that.
Be in the corner like, hey, my name's Justin, full album over here. I know there's like only 5 of us by now, but hey, we're taking it back. We're bringing it back.
Enjoy that guy's 2 songs. I've got 12 over here, so come on over.
Exactly. All right, my friend, you ready to let's go ahead and jump into some movies. Now, I do know that our list is kind of off, because usually it goes like you, me, or me, you, and bounce back. Did you want to take the movies, or you want me to take the movies?
You can go for it, because I'll take the honors of starting the Sell Me a Movie.
Fantastic. All right, so top grossing movies of 1964. Of course, some of the honorable mentions: Pink Panther, that was at number 10. Viva Las Vegas with Elvis Presley was at number 11. Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove was at number 12. But number 1 was Mary Poppins at 102 million. Number 2 is My Fair Lady at 72 million. Goldfinger, 51 million. The Carpetbaggers at 28 million. And then, of course, From Russia with Love at 24, which I never knew this, but apparently there was 2 007 movies.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that when you read that. So
yeah,
2 007 movies out at the same time?
Yeah, which of course that is by thenumbers.com. We usually get our stuff from IMDb, but I do know that that is the same website before I passed it on to Steven. So I know the information he found. It's the same exact information that I found. So I trust it. I trust that information. And I just find it odd that they released 2 007 movies in the same year.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see. I'd be interested to see if Goldfinger or From Russia with Love came out first.
Yeah.
Because if From Russia with Love came out second, it almost looks like there's some sort of 007 fatigue, and putting it out there twice was a bad idea. Because if you look at the difference in money made, you got Goldfinger at 51 million, and then From Russia with Love is like half. Mm-hmm. So maybe if it did have 2 of them come out in the same year, and From Russia with Love was the one that came out after, that's probably why we haven't seen 2 James Bond movies in the same year, because they realized that 2's too many.
Well, the other thing too is, if you think about it, which one do you know of more? Like, which one have you heard more? Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only reason I've heard of Goldfinger more is because when I was in high school, I used to listen to a band named Goldfinger, and it came from that. And then, of course, you've got Austin Powers, Goldmember, which
Yeah.
is a play off Goldfinger as well. That's the only reason I've heard of Goldfinger more. From Russia with Love, I've heard of it, but I think just pop culture more has more Goldfinger references.
See, that's funny because I would actually say the opposite. Like I've heard a lot more from Russia with Love than I have with Goldfinger, and I think it actually has to partake in the fact that my uncle is a huge James Bond enthusiast, and I remember that at one point they came out with From Russia with Love video game, and he would play that constantly. And of course, Goldfinger too had Sean Connery, but I just whenever I picture Sean Connery as 007, I just picture From Russia with Love. I don't know why. It could be the polar opposite of one another. That you had something that inspired Goldfinger a little bit more on your side, which From Russia Love with me. But I never actually knew that Austin Powers Goldmember was a playoff of Goldfinger. So that's interesting because I would have never caught any of those references if you didn't mention something. Because if I'm not mistaken, Goldfinger has the Golden Lady, right? Okay. Yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's real interesting. All right, my friend. Well, of course, with that in mind, ready to do some heavy hitting? And by heavy hitting,
yes,
I mean like some sell me the movie.
Hello there, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and children.
So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and count you down, and I'll let you know when. So in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so I picked Mary Poppins, and the reason I picked Mary Poppins is because not a lot of people will believe this, but this is my first time watching Mary Poppins. I saw the remake, but I have not seen the original. So with Mary Poppins, we've got a groundbreaking movie. There's comedy, drama, adventure, and it's family friendly to top it off. Mary Poppins floats down from the sky on her umbrella, carrying her bottomless purse. To be a rescue nanny for a couple of rich kids. Dick Van Dyke is a one-man band busker who's friends with Mary. The son just wants to fly his freaking kite, but his dad won't give him the time of day. What a prick. The parrot in the bottom of Mary's umbrella is a talking parrot and is good friends with Mary. Dick Van Dyke started the sagging pants trend. I am selling this, that Dick Van Dyke started the sagging pants trend during his dance scene with the Penguins, and somehow that trend is still around today. There are classic songs like Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Spoonful of Sugar, Let's Go Fly a Kite, which is good news for the son because, as the name of that song states, he did get to fly his kite at the end of the movie, so good for him. There's a hilarious joke about a man with a wooden leg named Smith. That is classic. A random sailor shooting cannons off his roof, and he wasn't arrested for some reason. Made me wonder where the cannons went. So that is cool as well. The Fantastic Family movie, a classic, one that broke new ground for its time. But don't take my word for it. If you haven't seen it, grab some popcorn, sit back with the family, and enjoy the adventure of Mary Poppins.
Nice. Anything else to add? You have a minute.
The remake was actually pretty decent. That's all I got.
All right. So that was with 52 seconds left. Just go ahead and back that up. And so what did you think, since you never actually saw it until recently? Did you like it?
I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot, yeah. I can see why it's a classic. I mean, there's so many cool elements to it. The music's great. The animation in it's really cool. The animation that is with real life, that's kind of cool. Because Roger Rabbit did that long after, and everyone thought that was groundbreaking, and Mary Poppins over here doing it back in the 60s. So that's really cool. There were some borings to it, even as an adult, that I could think of. Like I would think to myself, like as a kid, this might be dragging a little bit. But Dick Van Dyke had a horrible Cockney accent. And the only reason I think that is because, I was married to an English woman for so long. I've heard all the English accents, and his accent was very horrible.
So I actually just realized that I gave you a little bit more on selling the movie because you are definitely still selling the movie. So that's my bad.
I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed it. After never seeing it before, I thought it was good.
Cool. All right. So go ahead and count me down, and I'll start the timer.
All right. Ready in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So the movie that I actually selected is a classic Audrey Hepburn. And of course, it is from the top 5, as how we always do. And that is My Fair Lady. Now, from my understanding, when I was younger, My Fair Lady, I fell asleep during it. And of course, being younger, I don't remember any of it. So as an adult, I watched it recently, and there was a lot of course, things that I could, relate to or could see on how it influenced other movies. Like, for an example, it's about takes place in 1910s, and it has, Audrey Hepburn, who plays Eliza. She is I guess what they would call common folk. And she's just trying to make ends meet, trying to make her life, who ends up running into a gentleman by Professor Henry Higgins, who ends up meeting Alfred P. Doolittle as well. And of course, that is played by Stanley Holloway. Professor Henry Higgins is by Rex Harrison, and it's basically a underdog story, practically. If you like the Richard Gere and Sandra Bullock movie, no, not Runaway Bride, but the other one that they're famous for that everyone loves, it actually takes place, or it actually grabs a little bit from My Fair Lady, because that's exactly what it is. It's a lovable, wholesome movie, and that you can watch it with the kids. There is music to it, and actually the music is very, very catchy. Our daughter, I was playing it, and our daughter was watching the TV as it was playing. So it even enjoyed her, and she's not even 2 years old yet. And it's almost a 3-hour movie. And so, yeah, it's one of those movies I would highly recommend. Audrey Hepburn, classic. If you like her, of course, in Breakfast at Tiffany's, you will thoroughly enjoy this. This movie was also directed by George Cukor, I believe is how you pronounce the name. But ironically too, and I didn't know this, but it actually started off as a play in the 1950s. I could be wrong, but it did start off as a play. And that, of course, was on Broadway. That ended up going to, traveling and everything. But that's also where you get the famous line of "move," and you're going to hate me for this because I can't do it either, of "move your bloomin' ass" as well at the horse races. And you can make fun of me all you want, Justin. I give you free room to do so, because I know that was a horrible interpretation, but it is an instant classic, one of those movies that you should watch before you die. So what are you waiting for?
Still voila. Dick Van Dyke's accent.
Oh, I mean, to Dick Van Dyke's credit, at least he was getting paid for it.
Yeah, sure.
But no, it's I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it was enjoyable. No. It was very enjoyable. And with that, of course, that brings us to a closure of this week's episode. Of course, if anything, this is probably airing after Thanksgiving. So if you had a great Thanksgiving, let us know in the comments what you remember. What Black Friday sales did you go after? Did you get an Xbox? Did you give someone else an Xbox? Did you get a PlayStation 5? I know who does. That is you, sir. So
I also just got I just found a Switch OLED too by chance.
Well, there you go.
My luck is amazing.
So leave us a comment below. How was your Thanksgiving? What type of food did you enjoy? What type of Black Friday sales did you go after? And with that, of course, it also leads us to, if you enjoyed the show, leave a comment below letting us know what year you want us to do, as all of our previous years have been uploaded as well. Who won? Which movie are you going to see? Are you going to see My Fair Lady? or Mr. Mary Poppins over here with those saggy pants. You just never know. Dancing penguins. I mean, you never know. So leave us a comment to let us know who won in that epic battle of, sell me a movie. If there's a movie that came out in that year that you thoroughly enjoy and feel like it was better than any of the top 5 that actually made it to the charts, leave that comment below as well. Also, can't say this and stress this enough. If you are an independent movie producer, director, writer, we want to talk to you. We want to sit down with you. We want to get people to know who you are, what your film is or films are about. We want to make sure that you are getting recognized as an artist as well, because in today's society, it's hard unless if you're already in Hollywood. So we want to make you known. And with that, again, like, follow, subscribe. The only way to watch this video is YouTube officially. And with that, my friends, we are signing off. So we wish you a wonderful night.